Hey everybody, welcome to the Rugby Report. My name is Dwayne Burkhardt, and for those of you who did not see the report last week and or just plain forgot, the reason you're watching me in shades this week is because about 10 days ago I had some emergency surgery that made my face, or part of my face, look like I've gone 15 rounds with Rocky Balboa. I'm better. I'm getting better. The doctors are very optimistic, but it's still probably not something we want to show, and so I'm going to keep wearing the shades, and frankly, let's face it, it does make me look cooler. And I'm also going to follow the format that we did last week, where I'm just kind of wing it. There's no script this week. We're just going to talk about the games, or we're going to talk about the Rugby Championship, rounds 4 and 5 in the NPC, and just kind of see where that takes us. Then we sign off and go till next time. So we'll start this week's action. There was no Wednesday night game, so we started this weekend's action with Tasman playing Canterbury. Now, if you'll remember, Canterbury was coming off of a disappointing, to say the least, loss at the hands of the Taranaki Bulls out in Taranaki, and Tasman finally looking more like the Tasman of old. And so I thought, boy, you know what? It looks like the Mako defending home and playing finally the way we knew they could, they would do well. They did not. Canterbury came into this all-South Island clash possessed. The Mako were not. It was basically a game that the Canterbury controlled all the way. The full-time score, Canterbury 52, Tasman 20, and it wasn't a game that was really in reach at any point. Canterbury dominated and showed again that they really are going to be at the top of the table, or look to be at the top of the table come the end of the season. We move on over to Waikato, where Waikato, the Moo-Moos, were taking on the Manawatu Turbos. And you know what? This game went pretty much the way you would have expected it to go. It was yet another blowout for the Turbos, and that they are, frankly, on the wrong side of yet again. If you're a Turbos fan or a Turbos player, you're probably reaching for any good news you can get. And I would say that, you know what? For the first 50 minutes of this game, frankly, the Turbos were in it. It was 15-6, 10 minutes into the second half. Still a winnable game by either team. And then Waikato went on a 38-0 run to close out the game, and it became just another game that just was embarrassing. The full-time score again, Waikato 53, the Turbos 6. It was a game that was probably pretty forgettable for Turbos fans, and frankly, part of a season so far that's been pretty forgettable. Moving on to Saturday's action, we moved to Hawke's Bay, and what was easily the game of the week. Just no question, the game of the week. The Ranfurly Shield was up for grabs as Hawke's Bay was hosting North Harbour. North Harbour has played some really great rugby so far this season. Hawke's Bay has been a little bit tipsier, I suppose. I'm trying to figure out the word in real time, and it's not really coming to me, but Hawke's Bay has not showed us the Magpies team that we sort of expected, or that I expected, coming into this season, or at least they hadn't until this game. Now, I did not know that the Magpies were going to be starting Brodie Retallick, who is healing from his injury back from the Ireland series, but they did, and had I known that Retallick and Weber were going to start for the Magpies, would it have changed my prediction? I don't know. It might have not. But the fact is, it certainly would have given me more pause. The bottom line here, it didn't really matter either way. This was a back and forth, up and down, amazing rugby game. Really competitive, start to finish. A great game played by both sides. In the end, Hawke's Bay coming from behind to win the game 25-23. A missed conversion kick by Bryn Gatland is the difference, but honestly, Hawke's Bay just simply played lights out, and they just played that tiny bit better in that game. But definitely the game of the week, if you're going to go back on YouTube or Flow Sports or wherever and watch a game again, this is the game I would check out. Just a great game, a close game. Hawke's Bay up 25-23. The next game, well, it went pretty much the way I thought it was going to go. Auckland hosting Otago. My heart always with Otago, but knowing the game as I did, I thought Auckland would win. And you know, Auckland, They were very opportunistic in this game. Otago should have taken the lead, but the first 14 points were on opportunistic plays where Otago was going to score, and then all of a sudden Auckland had the ball, and in the one case they went 95 meters the other way and scored. In another case, it was just a lucky play again, and before you knew it, they were down 21-0. It was really hard to see how they could come back and win this game in the second half. They did win the second half, 17-14, but you know what? They lost the first half, 21-0. So Auckland wins this game, the full-time score, 35-17. Congratulations to Auckland. Otago still played well, still playing well this season, and we expect to see more good things from them. Moving to Sunday's action, my favorite team to watch so far this year, Bay of Plenty. Bay of Plenty hosted Counties Manukau, and, well, this was another pretty good game, but I'll tell you something really interesting. I called this for Bay of Plenty because, again, they've been playing such incredible lights-out rugby all year long, and I thought that coming home again, they'd have the home field advantage, and they should win this game, and I still feel that they should have won. The fact of the matter is, Caleb Trask left 7 points on the field. He missed 2 penalty kicks and 2 conversions and a penalty kick, but you know what? I'm not really sure that that's the difference in the game. They did lose by 5 and he left 7, so I get that and all that. But the fact of the matter is, Bay of Plenty was just simply not able to regularly get into their offense. And Counties Manukau just simply stopped them, got them out of their rhythm. In fact, if I were every other team playing Bay of Plenty for the rest of this season, this is the film I would go back and watch and see if I could figure out exactly what it was that the Steelers were doing that was keeping them and making them so effectively able to keep the Bay of Plenty out of their regular offense. Hohepa had a fantastic game. He kicked them to the victory, but Counties Manukau steals the win. Full-time score, Bay of Plenty 13, Counties 18. They win the game. Good on you, Steelers. Again, the Steelers playing much better rugby this season. The next game, we're going to move over to Wellington, where the Wellington Lions were taking on the Taranaki Bulls. I thought the Bulls, coming off of that incredible win against Canterbury, could go on the road and continue to play that kind of rugby and maybe take one from the Lions. Didn't quite work out that way, but both teams played very well. This was another close game, a back-and-forth game. It was not a game that any one team really had the upper hand the whole game on. Both teams played well. The Bulls had a chance to pull it out right at the end of the game. They had that last possession, couldn't do it. Full-time score, Wellington 31, Taranaki 25. And then finally, Northland and Southland, the Battle of the Lands up in Whangarei. The Taniwha hosting the Stags, and a game that again went pretty much the way I thought it would go. Once again, the Stags just playing really good rugby. There are 2 teams that still are winless this year. The Turbos are one, the Stags are the other. But I got to say right now, the Stags, and I've said it before and I'm going to say it again, the Stags are going to surprise somebody this year. They fell behind, they couldn't make it back. Northland is still playing just exceptionally well. They win the game. As I said, 32-19 was your full-time score. Northland holding on to the Battle of the Lands title. There is no Battle of the Lands title. I've just made this up. But it's a game that I always like to watch because, again, the 2 farthest geographic teams in 2 small markets, it's always a fun game. And it was again. But Northland wins this game 32-19. My record for the week, let's look very carefully. And you know what? Well, yep. I had my first loser week. My record for the week, 3-4. Now, hopefully, keeping in mind that we have a midweek game coming up that is still technically a round 4 game, hopefully Canterbury wins the midweek game, which I predict that they will, and that'll pull me to 4-4, so I'll at least be at 500. But for the moment, I'm 3-4 on the week, and my record for the season to date is 19-10. Hopefully, I will be 20-10, so that Meatloaf and I can have something in common when we say 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Now let's talk a little bit about round 5 coming up, and then we'll touch on the Rugby Championship, and then I'm going to go back and rest some more. So this week coming up again, Canterbury versus North Harbour. That's the midweek game that is technically the end of round 4. As you just heard me say, I think Canterbury is going to win this game. They will take out North Harbour at home in Orange Theory. Round 5 officially starts on Friday in Manawatu as the Turbos are hoping for their first win of the season still against Tasman. And folks, the boys in Blenheim are really starting to get worried, and they should, because the Mako have still not shown us the consistency that they need if they're going to be a top-tier team, if they're going to go deep into the playoffs this year. But against the Turbos, yeah, I think they get healthy again. I think Tasman wins this game. The Turbos have still not shown that they can give up less than 45 points in a game, and until they do, I'm going to pick against them every single week. So, sorry Turbos fans, the Mako are going to win this game. On Saturday, we're going to start up in Northland. The Northland Tanafa, again, playing very well. They're taking on Auckland. Auckland will travel up Highway 1. They're going to get up into Northland, and they're going to take Northland. Auckland will win this game. They're just playing simply too well. They're very opportunistic. Their offense is, their backfield in particular, playing very well. Northland also playing well, but not well enough to beat Auckland right now. I think, again, Auckland wins this game. The next game is a tough game to call. Taranaki goes home and plays Waikato. Now, Taranaki has not really played the rugby that we thought that they could play at the beginning of the season. Waikato, defending champions, they're on the road, though. The last time Taranaki went home and faced a better team, frankly, when they faced Canterbury 2 weeks ago, they won the game. Weather was kind of a factor in that game, but still, they won the game. This is a little tight for me. I think that the Bulls are capable of winning this game, especially if Waikato comes in and doesn't take it seriously enough, or if they just have an off day, but I don't think they're gonna. I think Waikato wins this game. They win it on the road. Taranaki falls. Waikato with the win. Finally, on Saturday night, we're going to go all the way back down to Invercargill. Southland is going to host Wellington. I think Wellington's going to win this game. I'm sorry, Stag fans. You know I love you. You know I think your team's playing with an incredible amount of heart this year. Every game has been an exciting game. This past week, the game against Northland was the first game where it was like not a nip and tuck all the way down to the last play kind of game. They're still playing really good rugby, and they are going to shock somebody, but I don't think it's going to be the Wellington Lions. Wellington is going to come out on top in this game unless Wellington fails to take them seriously. You got to go into the Southland Territory, and you've got to know that the Stags are better than their record, and you'd better play that way or they're going to shock you. I don't think that's going to happen. Again, Wellington over Southland on Saturday night. Finally, on Sunday, Canterbury is going to take on Hawke's Bay. You know, the Hawke's Bay just played an incredible game. They finally played the rugby that we thought that they could play all season long in defending the Ranfurly Shield against North Harbour. A great, great game. But they're going into Christchurch, where Canterbury is undefeated. And frankly, again, they've been playing, with that one exception in Taranaki, really lights out rugby all season long. I got to think that's going to continue. Hawke's Bay can play well. Canterbury's simply going to play better. In Orange Theory, Canterbury wins this game. Also on the South Island, the next game on Sunday, Otago is going to play host to Bay of Plenty. Otago will be back in Forsyth Bar Stadium, and they'll be a little bit ticked off about how that game against Auckland ran, because, you know, it felt like it was the kind of game that they could have, should have won if they just hadn't had the mistakes happen that happened. But against Bay of Plenty, I don't know. Bay of Plenty is going to be really upset about losing to the Steelers. Otago, study that game film. Maybe you'll get lucky. My heart's always with you, Otago, but the bottom line is Steamers are still playing better rugby overall. The Steamers are going to win this game. Finally, on Sunday, we're going to North Harbour, where North Harbour is going to take on the county's Manukau Steelers. I'm going to get their name right, I promise, for the county's folks. The Steelers fans have a lot to cheer about, all right. Hohepa played a great game last week. He was the big difference, I think, in the Bay of Plenty game. North Harbour will be smarting because they lost the Ranfurly Shield game in Napier. They'll be coming home, though. Tavita Lee still playing really well. Bryn Gatlin still playing really well. I just don't see the hibiscus-clad men of North Harbour losing to the Steelers at home in this game. The Steelers, again, playing much better rugby than I thought they would this season. Better rugby than they've played the last several seasons. But against North Harbour at home, I just don't see it. North Harbour wins this game. And then finally, in round 5, there's a Wednesday night game. According to my tradition, now I am not calling the Wednesday night game until the Rugby Report next week because the game will not have happened yet by the time I do this again, and I'd like to see this week's action before I call it. But just so you know, the last game in round 5, Tasman hosting Wellington, and I'll let you know who I think wins that game in the next Rugby Report. All right, before we go, let's have a quick look at the Rugby Championship, which resumed this weekend in Australia and New Zealand with a couple of games that were pretty interesting, with almost exactly the same score and very unpredictable in terms of the way I thought they would play out. The first game, Australia playing South Africa. Both teams didn't look like the teams that they've looked like in recent series. Australia did not look like a team that just struggled and had back-to-back blowouts, 1-4 and 1 against in Argentina, nor did they look like the team that struggled against England. South Africa absolutely didn't look like the team that had just beaten Wales and New Zealand, but this is how it goes, and this is why we play the game. South Africa came on the field. Faf de Klerk, one of the better nines in the world, was making passes literally to nobody. Andre Pollard missed kicks that he doesn't miss. And the Wallabies, they came into this game possessed, not just on defense, offense, everywhere. This game, the final full-time score was Australia 25, South Africa 17, but this game was never close. It was 25-3 with just 5 minutes to go. South Africa scored 2 late tries to make it look close, but this was not. Australia blew the doors off this game, and frankly, they looked good. The Springboks didn't, and it was just plain weird. Congratulations to the Wallabies. The Springboks have some thinking to do before the next game. In the second game of the weekend across the Tasman Sea, we see New Zealand taking on Argentina. Now, of course, New Zealand has never lost to Argentina in New Zealand. Well, until this weekend. This was a game where it was really one man against an entire team. Emiliano Buffelli scored 20 of Argentina's 25 points. And the other 5 were frankly on just one of those fluke plays that happens. So, 25-18, I'm going to say Buffelli 20, New Zealand 18, Argentina 25, New Zealand 18. There are a lot of reasons that New Zealand just simply wasn't able to come back and win this game, but the bottom line is Argentina still just a much better team than they had been in years past. They are a genuine world power in rugby now. They need to be taken seriously, and I'll tell you what, Buffelli had the game of his life. And again, he was the complete difference in the game. Full-time score, Argentina 25, New Zealand 18. Well, that's it for the Rugby Report this week. Once again, I want to thank everybody, this abbreviated version, and thank you again for those who have sent nice thoughts. I assure you that my recovery is apparently proceeding normally, and someday you may see me without the shades again, and I may be able to read a teleprompter. We certainly hope so. Thanks for watching, and remember, having a wife who loves rugby is just like having any other wife, but better. See you next time. Finally, on Sunday, we're going to go to North Harbour. North Harbour is going to be taking on the We're back to doing some bloopers. We're going to do a couple of bloopers, apparently this one more than once. Finally, on Sunday, we're going to North Harbour, where North Harbour is going to take on the county's Manukau. I'm going to do this a fourth time because I can't say Manukau. Wow. All right. I'm going to stop for just a second and take a drink before I do that. Here's another blooper for you. That's right. On the foot of Emilio Buffelli, Buffelli? It is Buffelli. Bellafano? Is his name Belafonte? We're not sure what his name is. We're going to check on the name and get right back to you. Let's go back and do that one again. So, you know what? I'm going to back up and do that again. Let's do that one more time.